Hey everyone, welcome to the AMP session for today. We're delighted to have you with us. If you're here live, welcome. If you're watching the replay, hope you're having a fantastic day. Um, the AMP series, just to remind you, stands for the Agent Mentor Program, which is part of our way of connecting with agents that are doing cool things, also going over some base training just to get people's skills sharpened or resharpened. We have a lot of people that come to us in different stages in their careers, and some are new to an area, and some are rebooting their careers. And so we want to take the next few AMP sessions and just cover off some bases. And for that, we are joined by our special guest today is Tony Fanfola. Tony, welcome to AMP.
Thanks, Rob.
What are we going to be talking about today, Tony?
Well, it's really Real Estate 101 and back to the basics, I think, as we discussed. And we're all looking for the magic and how to get that next listing. And sometimes we get a bit clouded by the shiny things that are out there, perhaps in offerings around lead generation. And I just wanted to go back and talk about some of the simple things that we can all do and do well, and that we know, and there's people here in this group this morning that have fantastic success with these basics. And I just wanted to make sure we're all continually thinking about them as much as we are thinking about some of the other great tools that are out. But I don't know about you and others here, but when I open my Instagram, I get all sorts of ads about lead generation. And
I think
none of
yesterday I saw about 4 or 5 different pitches for that. Tony, just before you get too far into the weeds, let me just ask you, so currently you're the licensee for the state of Victoria with EXP, and you've got a lot of tasks around that. But take us back. You've done other things besides that. You've been in real estate for a while. How long have you been in real estate? When did you start? Was there electricity, and how did that all go for you?
Well, you joke about was the electricity. There was no internet. That's the first thing that wasn't present. And
Yeah,
so it was 1997.
yeah.
Internet just arrived as I did, so to speak. And we had no CRMs. We had a exercise book and a pen.
Great. I
And
always say great battery life in a pin.
yeah, and we had mobile phones, and you know what? They only did things like call and text. There was nothing else on them. The ability to take a picture was just coming, and it was all shiny and new. So, yes, it was a little bit like before there was power.
Yeah, that's right. And the offers used to come through, or contracts to come through on the rolling paper fax machine, and you had to get there in time, or whatever, it would fade out. So yes,
Yeah,
Tony and I are both dinosaurs.
when you
Uh,
heard the fax machine ringing, you ran to it because you knew that there could have been an offer. So yeah.
yeah, that's right. That's right. So no, fantastic. And I only wanted to touch back with that. Prior to you coming to EXP, you've been both a sales rep, you've owned your own company, you've done bits and pieces like that. So I just want to give those that are watching or listening just a little bit of a background about you. So you have been in the trenches, you've been a salesperson, you have done pretty much all aspects of the real estate business. And so you've got a good idea of what's going on. So let's get back. I was sharing with Tony. I remember being in the office, and it wasn't just the shiny objects of today. Back in the day, there were shiny objects, and I remember spending a week trying to create the best DL drop I could make. And my boss said to me, "They're not going to read it much. Just put something in their letterbox and get going." So back to you, Tony.
Yeah, look, we used to put a business card in the letterbox, because it was difficult back then to get DL cards printed. Printing and photography was very difficult, but nowadays we can get DL cards easy. And to start on that, and I've got a document that I'll share in the chats later, just about two things. One's letterbox dropping, and the other one's door knocking. So one's just blurbs and one's scripts. But to touch on those couple of things. I was never much of a door knocker. I did it a bit, but I didn't like it, as many agents don't. But I think if you have the right script, it's part of it can overcome some of the fear. So I've got some of those, and the DL cards, you can put whatever you like on a DL card. I've got some examples that I can share, but I've got some blurbs that I'll share with you so that for everyone here and in the future, there's a takeaway there for these simple things. And you know what? They bloody well work. You know, these DL cards, if you're consistent, repetitive, and you make a plan in an area, a patch, whatever it may be, they just work. And it's just a good tool, communication that if you do them often enough, you'll see the impact. And as you're walking around the streets and delivering them, you meet people as you go, and you chat with people. And I've done appraisals on the fly, walking into people's houses. And if it's in the patch that you want to work in, that neighborhood that's your backyard, there's no better way to get in front of people and do that than having a letterbox drop. But you must be consistent. You can't just do one. It won't work.
I'll just step in, and I was having a laugh with one of our agents yesterday, and they were listening to something on YouTube, and here in Western Australia, we've been beating the drum, and you hear it occasionally on the icon sessions and whatnot, that I've been talking about. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. And however that happens for you in the real estate space, that still remains true. And an agent rang me yesterday. He said, "Oh, I've been listening to this podcast while I've been driving, and it told me I needed to get known in my area
How do
as
I do that?
as the secret sauce." And
Magic.
and it's just funny sometimes that if you hear it from another voice, sometimes you go, "Oh yeah, that makes sense now."
Yeah, look, and we can do some great things. I know Chris, who's on the call today, does some incredible video, but that's not the first thing that you do when you start your real estate career or you work to a new area or things like that. That's, these things are down at number 15, 16 or beyond, because there's so many things just to get known, and we talk about, and I talked with our Victorian group last week about, does everybody, everyone in your phone contacts, do they know you're a real estate agent in such and such an area? Because if they don't, what a great tool and resource. You know these people, they're in your contacts. Now, if I look at mine, I must say, I'd hate to think how many are in my contacts, because I used to put all my buyers and sellers in there. So there's a gold mine in there of contacts, but at one time or another, you've done business with them, or they're your cousin or your friend or the butcher or whoever. But if they all know you're in real estate, whether it's an SMS or a call, whatever it may be, they need to know this is the first thing. And before we go to those shiny tech tools, everyone in your area must know you sell real estate, and it's free to do that. It's free to do, virtually free to do the DL cards. It's free to door knock, and I'm just so passionate about all of our agents doing all of the free things as much as possible before paying great amounts of money for other services and subscriptions that are not part of EXP's model offering.
Yeah, and I think it's a really interesting point that you raised. Like, we've got some really wonderful icon agents that have shared some of the tools and whatnot that they're using, and it's great. And I am a believer that you need to invest in your business, but not everyone's in that point in their real estate journey where they've got, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month to invest in different marketing scenarios. And even some of those marketing scenarios don't give immediate response or immediate results. And so, yeah, that's great.
Well, I can tell you, I've never spent a cent on any of those tools in my life. I've never done a video in my life. I've done social media posts and things like that, and DLs and all of these, what I call free things. I've done some ads in the local paper, very sporadically, but, and I've turned over 50, 60 sales a year for 25 years, however much gross that is, at 10 grand a pop or whatever. But without all of those, without going to those things, yes, I've used a CRM, which is an incredibly important tool. But I've never done a bulk SMS out of the CRM or anything like that. So it can all be done for very little cost if you're just consistent in what you're doing and follow up.
I think the hardest thing that agents face is the distractions of doing the business impact getting the business. Um, and
Yeah, when you start doing, you've got opens to do and you've got offers coming and appraisals and listings, fantastic, because that's the job.
vendor management, you got
Yeah,
wide inspections gone wrong, or finance is looking a bit sketchy and
yeah, you're
stressed
chasing
out,
documentation and signatures, and
stressed
it
out
goes on and on
vendors,
and on.
buyers. Yeah,
That we can even forget about that appraisal we did 2 weeks ago.
yeah.
And because we get so caught up, but it's just having systems where you get reminded of that and give them that call back or drop in that market report or whatever it may be. It's just having systems. And I know, Peter, who's on screen there, has fantastic systems for this. Continually tells us he doesn't do anything, and then
And then lays out a
does an
20.
enormous amount of effective things that are just these things.
I must be the laziest agent in real estate, he says, and then he lays out 25
It
point standard operating
is
procedures.
absolute classic. But if you watch back some of those icon sessions with Peter, unbelievable, and this is where I come back to, because I do get asked by agents, I want to get a subscription to such and such an ID for me or whatever it might be. And if they're at the start of their career, it's, for mine, not appropriate. There's far, far more things that you can do to start generating
So,
that.
so let's break it down, Tony. Let's say you were an agent with 2 to 3 years experience. You've just relocated to a new area. You're now with EXP. What would you advise or recommend to start?
Again, the first thing was all of the people you've ever known in your life need to know where you are now and your contact details, and that you're selling real estate for EXP. That's the first thing, and that can take a bit of time. And then to get some DL cards printed, do that letterbox dropping, get some pointer boards. When we go out and do letterbox dropping, I put pointer boards at the corner. I'm in your area today with my name and my phone number, and I just prop them on a corner at the busy roads where it may be, and they're there for a couple of hours while I'm walking the streets. They may never
Licensee
generate a
disclaimer,
call.
check your local Shire Council laws. That may not be an option for you in some areas.
Yeah, it's probably not, but that's what I did, but they were temporary little signs
Yeah.
that sat there, and they were only there a couple of hours, so not long enough to create a problem. And it really about councils, yes, about open boards and all the rest of it. And get about doing that. Put everyone in your database that you know. I always was one for generating regular market reports. So for all of those people that you know in your life, getting their emails and doing a quarterly market report, sometimes a special report when you had a couple of significant results or something like that, not bombarding them, because and I think Bjorn, who's on screen, does this mega effectively. I think it's every Friday night someone gets something, just to start that process, whether it's market reports or just opens tomorrow, and then copying that through to your Facebook page that here's your opens for tomorrow. Encouraging people to like your page. Sorry, I go off onto this
Yeah.
other tangents very quickly, but they're all the things that they're free, they're easy. It doesn't take a lot of resources. And to get DL cards printed, most people struggle with the content. I'll give you today half a dozen really effective pieces of content for those, and scripts for door knocking if you like door knocking. Certainly great around your listings and just listed, just solds or door knocks. Just doing open slather door knocks has never been something for me. But I know that there are people that do it effectively. Again, Lee Martinuzzi's one that does that very effectively. And just learning those strategies and perfecting them will get you business and build your real estate career in that area that you focus on if you are new. And as you said, if you've got 2 or 3 years knowledge, you know the job. It's just about getting known or more known, or if you're moving, expanding into areas, doing that in these areas, whatever it is, wherever you are in your career, and getting that going. And I'm going to be doing that later this year in an area that I haven't done a lot of business in. I've done a little bit, but it was never my primary area. But I've decided that I'm going to do a little bit of a push in the patch that my backyard and uh, get that program that I'm discussing going. Fortunately, I did buy my first house there in 1990, so I can evidence, that I've been in the area 34 years. So I've got that view. I'm not just brand new to the area, but never was an area I worked much.
Yeah. And I think one of the things as we blend the analog with the digital, um, agents get overwhelmed sometimes with a lot of stuff to do. And it might be wise just to make a list of 2 or 3 things that you can do. I know we talked already about doing DL cards and whatnot. There is a space for those that are equipped to set up the 4 or 5 mainstream social media channels. That doesn't cost anything, and that might be LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. You might only be familiar with 1 or 2 of those platforms. I would recommend also setting up a YouTube channel and posting content there with your name and the suburb that you're specializing in. YouTube's the second largest search engine in the world and powered by Google, so it's not going away anytime soon. But it does help tie in with your analog stuff that you're talking about, Tony, to be able to give credibility, which is part of being known.
Definitely. And, I think all of those DL cards, you have to have a QR code. The QR code is going to take you to um, either straight to a social media channel that you post content on, or to a link tree or Blink, I think the other one is,
Yeah,
that Chris
Chris
talked
did
about.
did a great
Yep.
session on setting that up.
So having those things where your client will zap the QR code and land at every channel, every social media channel that you have available, because I know people only use Instagram, don't use Facebook, or vice versa. So having all of them available, a lot of them you can cross post with only one post goes to multiple. That's something that's always been a challenge, but there are some software out there that'll do that for you, that again, all free. And having that, that daily post, and whether it's daily or, again, you have to set up this consistency, and it's virtually, and I had a table set up with the time frames, the DL cards were, and the increments of time between them. The Facebook posts, really you've got to do one every day or two. If it's one a week, it's not enough. But again, just doing those posts consistently, and we have so much content at EXP. Whether you're stealing everyone else's content, no one cares. Certainly none of us licensees, whether it's Chris's or mine or Rob's or EXP Australia or EXP Realty US. If you're taking any content, just regurgitate it. It's, make it yours, to your own little spiel above it. But none of it's copyright. We're all happy to share as much, and I've seen some great ones recently. I think Lee had one recently, and someone else had a couple of that I'd never seen before, just in the last week or two. There's a lot of great content that everyone's creating, and just use it. Whether you're reposting it on social media or developing it into a DL or a board or something. But these things, again, just consistency. How often you're going to do them? Where are you doing them? To whom?
So to solidify, you're talking about a marketing calendar.
Yep.
You're talking about something that's visual. Now, it could be a Trello board system. It could be something that was analog. It's on the office wall, the home office wall, or whatever, where you're going, okay, let's talk about your DL strategy a little bit more in full for someone that's never really invested in that. What is you said you could put whatever you want on a DL, but let's be a little bit more specific. So
Yeah.
someone's needing listings. As we know, the old saying is list and last. So targeted towards potential home sellers, what would you be putting on a listing? I mean, on a DL
Look,
card?
I'm gonna share this document later in our chats, but I've got some examples of DL scripts or flyer scripts, one being just a general market update one. The next one are just listed and just sold, which I think most of us get with our brochures and things. A buyer interest flyer, so we're buyers looking, quite a simple thing. A free home appraisal flyer, again, curious about your home's value. And I've got all the scripts there and everything, that the complete DLs for these. The neighbourhood expert flyer, an open house invitation flyer, and an after appraisal flyer. And that one's one that it's probably the only thing I've ever developed on my own in real estate.
What's the after appraisal flyer?
It's the I recently appraised a property in your neighbourhood. In preparation, I've researched the market in your area and developed a comprehensive market report which may be of interest to you.
Yep.
If you'd like, and I've gone off the screen there. If you'd like, I can drop this off or spend 10 minutes going over it with you, just so you can find the current value of your home. People called off that one. Just, yes, please. And so there's just, I think there's 8 examples there. They all work, and when you do them consistently, they work great. When you stop doing them, I remember missing an appraisal, missing a listing, and why'd you go with that person? Oh, they just put a flyer in my letterbox. I thought I'd call them in. Kills you.
It does. That's what people say. You're in your own patch where when you see a signboard up and you get upset about it.
Yeah, look, I'll share all of these for Amel's just asked. I'll share these, and I've also got scripts for door knocking, general neighbourhood introduction script, just sold script, just listed script, open house invitation script, market update script, just some tips there for door knocking. So I'll share. It's just one Google Doc I'll share later with Rob, and he can post it with the recording perhaps. But that's just a little bit of a head start, because I do get asked, what do I put on a DL? What do I say when I door knock? And, I know these are, most of our agents are experienced to a certain degree, but for some of them, they're still looking for those basics where perhaps they didn't do that at their previous employment or businesses. So I do get asked, what do I do now? I think that the most often
I
asked
love it when
question,
you get you're talking to an agent and they go, I've done everything and I can't get a listing. And you say, oh, cool, what does that look like? Tell me what everything means to you. And you kind of boil it down, and it's, well, I'm going to order DL cards. I'm going to do whatever. And sometimes it's not very much. Some agents do a lot. I'll also, when we post the recording of this, I'll also repost the interview we did with Victoria Moore from beautiful Exmouth, Western Australia, where she used the notice to residents flyer. She's in a tricky situation in her community. There are no letterboxes. And so everything has to be sent through the mail and postage paid. And
and in those circumstances, sometimes Australia Post has systems where you can get DL cards put into PO boxes. I've done that before. There is a cost to that. But if that's your only option, that's possibly all you can do. And for Victoria, perhaps door knocking's more the answer than letterbox dropping if there's no boxes there. But
well, I'll pop the video up when we post this as well. She sent out about 1,300 notice to residents and got 31 appraisals out of that.
Awesome.
Hey guys, can I just share a bit of experience?
Yeah, go on, Bjorn.
This is gold. I've been apparently, 7-time agent of the year winner in Gillis Plains for blah, blah, blah since 2010, number one, whatever. I've got lazy. There's one thing I've stopped doing, which is I've stopped letterbox dropping. And guess what? There's a young cat by the name of Blake who works for All Adelaide, who's absolutely kicking my ass at the moment, absolutely kicking my butt in my farm area. I've sold like 3 in my farm area, and this kid sold like 9. And all he does is letterbox drops every single week, every single house, and he door knocks. He's got a rotation. He goes around and he door knocks every single house on a monthly basis. That's all he does. and he's absolutely going to wipe me off the face of the planet because I've got lazy and I've got complacent and I've stopped doing the letterbox drops. So this is a really good session because you can wipe out experienced agents that have held a throne for a long time just by doing something as simple as letterbox dropping and door knocking, because the experienced agent thinks, you know what, I'm not going to do that anymore.
Yeah, and for you, Bjorn, you got busy, and I know you still do a lot of things digitally and that, but you get too busy. And I've been in situations where too busy to go and pound the pavement for 2 or 3 hours, and then it's either raining or too hot. We all have these excuses, but there's an absolute killer example of no matter how experienced you are, these simple things will work, and they will overcome experienced agents in your area. And we're all in our areas saying, oh, you know, I've got a Ray White or a something office that they just dominate our area. I really don't know. You can beat them like that kid's beating Bjorn.
Yeah.
It's just amazing how well it works. If you're consistent, the kid's got a plan, and stick to the plan.
That kid's got a plan to knock off Bjorn, and he's
Yeah,
following Bjorn around.
Hats off to him, and it's just a true, real example. Like, and I'm not shy of the fact that he's beating my backside. He deserves to beat my backside because he's doing the work. I mean, I'm spreading myself around a lot of different areas, but it just goes for anyone on this call that thinks that they're new and that, oh, but I'm up against this guy and this guy and this guy. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who they are. You can beat anyone just by being consistent and doing basic stuff like what Tony's gone through today. Absolutely brilliant session, Tony.
Yeah, cool. No, it's something I just am so passionate about, because I don't want to see people, you know, part with too much of their hard-earned to companies that are, you know, using some call center in Mars and, you know, taking our money at our commissions, taking portions of our commissions, a lot of these referral sites and things, when we can generate just as many appraisals by sticking to these types of plans. And you know, the other things can start to build off that later. And as you start to get results and boards up, you know, boards breed boards, and you'll just start to be able to build off that activity and those results, and that all back into your DL cards, back into your blurbs on Facebook or your blog or YouTube, whatever it may be. But yeah, that's.
We had a question come through. What are some beginning scripts for door knocking? So Tony, maybe you and I can just talk a little. I've done a lot of door knocking in the past, and you and I can just talk a little bit about if you are brand new to door knocking. First of all, if you're going to go door knocking, tell somebody you're going to go. Tell somebody where you're going to go, and tell somebody when you're done. All right. So if you can't find a colleague, a spouse, a partner, whatever, talk to your licensee, say, hey, I want to go door knocking. I'm going to be in this area, this street, whatever. And I'm going to be call, say, yeah, Google. Lee, I just muted you again. Lee, unmute yourself and say what you're going to say.
Hi, yeah, I was just going to say the other thing to be careful of. I mean, I get called literally at least once a week on people trying to sell me Google reviews and to get the top of and integrate. And yesterday I had one integrating into your CRM and taking over, and people know what's legitimate and what's not.
Yeah, SEO specialists.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and I've had agents come to me and want to integrate something into Agent Box. It can be done, but unless you've done all of these other things first,
yeah,
I'm not very interested in going through the tech spider web of integrating something into Agent Box where they're just going to take your money, as you say, and probably not deliver. You know, there's talking about Google reviews, and I've done a session with Victoria on Google reviews, and I think it's going to be in next month's Agents Pulse magazine about setting up Google business pages and things, which is another conversation. But back to the door knocking, and if you've done a lot, Rob, you'll be the expert. But just the document I've got just says some tips. You know, be friendly and approachable. Smile and maintain a friendly demeanor to put homeowners at ease. Okay, so you're not the sales guy. You're probably not wearing your suit and tie. you know, and I was a suit and tie wearer, but I take my tie off and my jacket off. You know, you're trying to be, if you've got polos like this, wear the polo. You're trying to be just that little bit more human, but still a real estate agent. Respect time and privacy. So keep your pitch concise and respectful of their time. You're not rambling on like, you know, the people that are calling us to sell us the gas hot water, that they jump into a script for 45 minutes before you can get a word in. You've got short and sharp, and the scripts I've got here are follow up. If you have a positive interaction, follow up with a handwritten note or an email. So, you know, just put a letter in there, you know, whatever it may be, something back to them in the post. I talked about dress, and keep notes of where you've been, where you had an interaction, you know, as you're walking, punch into your phone, you know, spoke to Bill at number 25 Smith Street, you know, and his number or whatever he said. And, you know, then it's a handwritten card. Dear Bill, great to chat the other day about blah, whatever it was, the football results, something. If you met him in his front yard, you know, love to be of service when you need it. If you need to know anything about real estate in your area, just here's my card. That's it. You know, I've been to people's houses years later and that stupid handwritten notes on their fridge.
Yeah.
You know, it's these things work, and I think that we somehow think they're too easy, or they're too cheap, or they're too something to do them. I don't know what it is.
Too basic. I spoke to an agent.
Yeah.
I spoke to an agent the other day, and they want to do door knocking. There's a little bit of fear around that, but they also feel like they're better than that. You know, kind of we're a professional, so I'm better than that. When I've done door knocking before, and there's a lot of ways you can do it and whatnot. Always have a reason to be door knocking. And if you're in that place where you need to get appraisals to build relationships with people and all that kind of stuff, as Tony says, just get yourself what I used to do is get myself a small little notebook, and I have a pen. I write the street address at the top of the page. I go, okay, so I'm going up to house 1, let's say, that's house number 1. I knock on the door. So I've written a 1 on my page. No one home. I fold a business card in half and I slide it in the slot. When they open that door, it'll spring out. And I just put an LC, meaning left card. And if I go to number 3, let's say, which is often the case, someone answers the door. If I'm there to generate appraisals, I'll just say, hey, it's Rob from eXp Realty. Just doing a quick 3-question survey. Do you guys rent or own? I do all of that before they say yes, no, whatever, right? Often they'll say, we rent, great, I've got a track for that. We own. When was the last time you had an appraisal? That's my next question. It's very direct. You have to practice this because it's very direct. It's not the soft introduction. And then when they tell you, oh, we've never had one or whatever, when would be a great time for me to pop around and give you an update on price? It's literally a 3-question scenario. Oftentimes, the response is, well, you can come in now if you want. And then from there, if I do that, now I'm 6'7", so I'm not likely. I'm harder to miss, whatnot, and I'm okay going in. If you're in an area where you don't feel safe and secure to do that, book an appointment and go back and whatnot. But I just go in, have a look around, and say, great. What I'll do is I'll send you an email with the updated information. What's your best email address? So when I've done that before, I've got in the door, I've got the email address, I've added to my database, and I'm on to the next property. So for the person that asked, can you talk a little bit about some scripts? That's one that has been very good at getting me in the door.
Excellent. I think I might, after we finish, I might write that into this document, because excellent script. And the scripts in this document are very similar, where there are a few questions, yes, based on the response from the person, and you know, you've got the replies. And as Rob said, just be aware of your safety, and it's you know, that you're doing this in the middle of the day, late morning, early afternoon, not dark, things like that. You know, when there's people around and things like that, just to make sure. And, you know, if someone does invite you in, you know, for me, I'm happy to go in. But, you know, certainly the ladies, unfortunately, I don't think that's a great idea. And just, you know, make a judgment call. But, you know, it's a great way, even if it's that quick hello and, you know, a little poke around, and, you know, they'll tell you things that are going to, you know, drop the magic of when they're thinking of moving. You know, we've been thinking about it a while. Some of them are actually, they're thinking about it, but they don't want to bother the real estate agent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're not that far along that they want to list right now. They might be 3 months, 6 months down the track, so they don't want to be a nuisance.
But you know what? The good agent, you walk out with authority. It just happens because, you know, there's some people that, you know, all we have to do is fill out some paperwork, organise the photographer. We can be, you know, on the market and open this Saturday or the one after, or, you know, what would that suit you? And you can get going to the beach like you talked about, or the you know, this, that, and the other, or to, you know, living with. Really, it's that easy. Yeah, it doesn't. I don't have to make it any more complicated than that. You know, we've got buyers. Look, it happens, but only happens if you're there.
For those that are
if you're sitting at the office.
Yeah, absolutely. For those that are nervous or scared to do door knocking, I used to be so scared to go door knocking or disliked it so much that I created my own this would be a Peter Forbes strategy, my lazy man's door knocking. I called it stealth door knocking because I didn't want to bother people. I used to take a stack of business cards, I'd break them into 50s, so I knew how many I had, and I would literally go and I'd just put them on the door and go to the next house, go to the next house, go to the next house. So it was, and yeah, lazy man doesn't bother Rob.
That's yeah, no, I don't like that one. That's
But I'll tell you what, I had people chase me down the street.
Yeah.
Hey,
what are you doing at my door?
Yeah, no, and can you come back? And we've just been having a coffee talking about when's the right time to downsize. Can you come back and talk to us about our property? So yeah, but
and look, if you're out there, you're obviously, you're probably in your community, you're meeting your neighbors.
People see you.
You know, and you know, if you've got a sign out, or you've got your car with a magnet on the side of it or something, or a flag off you. I saw one recently where they had a real estate flag that just went onto the tow ball of the car. Parked his car in the street, stuck the flag on the tow ball, and walked off DL card dropping.
Yeah.
You know, and that sat there, or it's good. All of these things, just you're in there in your neighborhood. If you've got a suburb that you live in, you know, I live in a suburb that's got, I don't know, 7,000 or 8,000 homes. That's all I'll ever need for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
That sort of size suburb, I won't have to leave it. But
I was just going to say the stealth door knocking, just for those of you that like the data, every 250 cards left on the door was an appraisal of someone selling in the next 4 to 8 weeks.
There you go. Cool.
So it does work.
Everything works to a degree.
But as you've said, I think the key things that you've said here is consistency, have a marketing calendar, have the collateral, like the flyers or whatever that you're going to do, have a plan, and through everything that you've said here is implied, be committed.
And look, my marketing calendar was a Word doc with a table.
Perfect.
It wasn't any more high tech than that. And it just had all the months, all of what I called the food groups.
Yeah.
Homeowners, landlords, tenants, buyers, sellers, whatever, and just what I did and how often I did it each month. And that was it. That's 25 years of my career is all I ever did. Work off that marketing calendar.
And I think what Bjorn alluded to before with the person in his patch, he's doing it weekly. That person is doing it weekly. And I think if you want to dominate a patch, and you might not be able to afford to, or don't have the time to drop yourself, or you can't find someone to drop for you, but if you will commit to a smaller area that you can do weekly, you'll get more traction.
Yeah. And look, if you've got another EXP agent that's in your area, do it together. you know, one side of the street each or whatever it might be, or you go and do his neighborhood and he and she comes and does yours with you, just to be a pair and a team. And, you know, it's, you know, I always did it with my wife, Sam, who, you know, the two of us would go off in different directions and meet again. We were dropping the same card, the same DL.
Yeah.
It just gave you a little bit of more motivation when you're with people, and you know you're not just trudging the streets alone. It does help.
Yeah, I went door knocking with one of our agents a week or 3 weeks ago. I went one little part in this farm area. He went in the other, and then we compared notes after. How did it go? Did you get any dogs chase you down the street, or did you, you know, whatever? Nice conversation. So, yeah.
But if that agent's not doing it again by next week, and then in a month, that exercise is futile.
Yeah. So,
you know, we had some great designs when I first started, and we were doing it weekly, and it was like the negotiator. And then there was another one, you know, tough, even tougher agent. You had a pair of boxing gloves on. And then there was like the communicator, and there was just all these series of like
different things.
It's hard to come up with something different every single week. But they were like really cool, and I've tried finding them, tried hunting them down, just can't find them again. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to start doing the letterbox drops again weekly.
It was Print Force, I reckon. I think Print Force had that series. Look, I've dropped a whole series of recipe DLs. You know, where one side was a recipe for whatever, and then the other side was my flyer, my message. But, you know, so the DL had something on it of value. You know, that's fantastic idea, whatever it might be. And a lot of these series, it was Print Force that did a lot of them. And you just Google it, you'll find a lot of those ideas, and I'll certainly try and find some for us. But yeah, those series, I think, was Print Force, and there's been lots and lots of others over the years that have been, you know, really cool and created by some marketing expert somewhere. I'm not much of a creative. I don't have much creativity. I just more about the message.
Yeah, and the key thing I think has been highlighted here today, and with this we might bring things to a close, is just be consistent. Your name, your brand, your contact details in the letterbox, in your patch on a regular basis. And Peter Forbes, great comment. Ignore the haters. Ignore the haters, because they will. People be ringing up. Don't put this stuff in my letterbox. Don't do this. Don't do that. Great. Have a nice day. Thank you.
And it was your colleagues, obviously, often that were the haters. You know, that young kid that Bjorn's talking about, you can back it in that the experienced agents back at his office are telling him he's a twerp. And, you know, he's coming back with the listings, and they'll soon, you know, they'll make another excuse as to how it's working.
Yeah.
You know, but don't worry about that. Just get consistent and do it, as Rob said.
Yeah, just do it. Just do it. Tony, thanks for joining us on this session of AMP. Thanks everybody for contributing, for Lee and Bjorn and Peter. Wonderful to have your comments and input as well. Also, I think it was Fiona that said there are different GPS tracking devices out there if you are wanting to connect and stay safe in the work environment, if you do want to go out and do some door knocking. As I said, make sure someone knows where you are and when you're supposed to be back, that kind of thing. So keep safe out there.
Someone else, you know, even if it's you've signed up someone to pay them to do it, you know, someone else. It's always good. But definitely also do it yourself.
Cool. Thanks, everybody. We'll catch you on the next AMP session.